your everyday happiness. My own secret happiness routine. Bondi.
In our headlines on this Friday, November 22nd, here on the Korean Peninsula. North Korea's Kim Jong-un claims past discussions with the US simply served to confirm Washington's, quote, unchangeable hostile policy toward Pyongyang, reaffirming the regime's need for nuclear weapons power. And Russia's Vladimir Putin dismisses Ukraine's allegation of an ICBM assault, asserting that Russia had tested a new hypersonic missile by firing it at a Ukrainian city in response to Kyiv's recent launch of American and British-supplied long-range missiles. Meanwhile, today, that is November 22nd, is Kimchi Day, a day designated to celebrate this tasty Korean staple and its steady expansion onto global dining tables, as the day is observed in quite a number of American states, a British town, and in the South American country of Argentina. North Korea's Kim Jong-un believes dialogue with the US in the past simply served to confirm Washington's animosity toward Pyongyang, reaffirming the regime's need for nuclear weapons power. Our correspondent Kim Jong-sil covers his remarks and more.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un recently stated that diplomacy with the US had reached its limits. Speaking at the National Defense Development 2024 exhibition in Pyongyang on Thursday, Kim stressed that he had, quote, explored all possible avenues of negotiations with the U.S. only to confirm its invasive and hostile policy toward Pyongyang. The South Korean government said Kim's message wasn't far from previous statements made about the U.S.
North Korea has yet to report on President-elect Trump's election result. Kim Jong-un's speech today repeated his previous message, calling for the US to first abandon its hostile policy toward the North.
Experts believe Kim's speech is more than rhetoric, commenting that it's part of a strategy to pressure the incoming US government to restart talks.
Despite distrust toward the United States, this pressures Trump by emphasizing conditions for talks, specifically the withdrawal of hostile policy, while continuing to build North Korea's nuclear arsenal.
Professor Im added Trump may seek another meeting with Kim to differentiate himself from President Joe Biden.
Trump will likely seek talks with Kim Jong-un to set himself apart from Biden, aiming to end the Russia-Ukraine war, restore peace in the Middle East, and eliminate the North Korean nuclear threat.
Pyongyang's annual exhibition ranged from showcasing small drones to the latest ICBMs.
Overall, it seems North Korea is showcasing its readiness for war, while more specifically sending a message to Seoul and Washington not to recklessly pressure or impose sanctions on Pyongyang.
Meanwhile, former Pentagon official Randall Shriver, who was in charge of the Trump-Kim talks in 2018, suggested that Trump may revive diplomacy with Kim, noting the latter's stronger position due to advanced strategic capabilities and support from Russia. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Earlier in September, North Korea's state media released rare pictures of Kim Jong-un visiting a highly enriched uranium production facility. Now, back on Wednesday, the UN nuclear watchdog claimed this facility seems to be an undeclared facility. Our correspondent Kim Bo-kyung reports.
The IAEA chief stated that the highly enriched uranium production facility North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited in September appears to be an undeclared facility at the Kangson complex near Pyongyang. Director General Rafael Grossi made this remark at an IAEA board meeting in Vienna, Austria on Wednesday. Referring to images published through Pyongyang state media that showed centrifuge cascades and other infrastructure, the nuclear watchdog said these were consistent with the layout of a centrifuge enrichment facility, along with the structure of the main building of the Kangson complex and its newly constructed annex. Previously, on September 13th, the KCNA reported Kim inspected the site that can produce weapons-grade nuclear material, revealing the highly enriched uranium production facility, though its exact location was not specified. This marked the first time the regime has unveiled a nuclear facility directly through its media since November 2010, when Pyongyang showed a facility with 2,000 centrifuges to U.S. nuclear physicist Siegfried Hecker and his team. The IAEA said such a display of an undeclared enrichment facility at Kangson and the call to further strengthen the foundation for producing weapons-grade nuclear material are of serious concern. Grossi added that there are indications that the centrifuge enrichment facility at the Yongbyon nuclear complex also continues to operate. Intermittent activity continues at the experimental light water reactor there, said the IAEA chief, which aligns with ongoing commissioning processes. The 5-megawatt reactor at Yongbyon was not operating between mid-August and mid-October, which experts at the nuclear watchdog believe gave the North enough time to refuel the reactor and start its 7th operational cycle. Regarding the Punggye-ri nuclear test site in Hamgyong-Bukdo province, it remains prepared for a nuclear test with no major changes so far. Stating that such a revelation of undeclared enrichment facilities and the ongoing commissioning of the light water reactor were clear violations of UN Security Council resolutions, Grossi urged Pyongyang to fully comply with resolutions and swiftly cooperate with the IAEA. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Russia tested a new hypersonic missile against Ukraine. This is according to Vladimir Putin in a televised address that rejected claims by Ukraine of an intercontinental ballistic missile launch. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
After claims by Ukraine that Russia fired an intercontinental ballistic missile at Ukraine's Dnipro region on Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin shot down the allegations, saying instead that it was a new non-nuclear, medium-range ballistic missile.
In combat conditions, one of the newest Russian medium-range missile systems was also tested, in this case with a ballistic missile in non-nuclear hypersonic equipment.
Putin added that the missile, named the Oreshnik, was fired in response to the aggressive actions of NATO countries against Russia. He cited the Ukrainian use of U.S.-supplied ATACMS and the UK's Storm Shadow missiles against Russia. Putin also used the word test to describe the launch of the missile, saying that it was successful. Washington confirmed Putin's claims as Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh told reporters on Thursday that the missile was a new experimental type of intermediate-range ballistic missile. However, she added that the missile was based on the design of a Russian ICBM. The press secretary also said that Russia had pre-notified U.S. officials about the strike using nuclear risk reduction communication channels. Following initial reports of Russia's use of an ICBM, European Commission spokesperson Peter Stano said if confirmed, it would mark another quantitative and qualitative change in the war and a clear mark of escalation. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's office said that if the use of ICBMs is true, it would be another example of Russia's escalating, reckless, and corrupt behavior. The comments came as the Ukrainian Air Force claimed that a Russian ICBM flew south of the central eastern city of Dnipro on Thursday. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And a senior North Korean military officer has been injured in Russia's Kursk region by a Ukrainian air assault. Now, this is according to the Wall Street Journal on Thursday, quoting Western authorities. Neither the identity of the officer nor the severity of his injury has been disclosed. The U.S. Daily says over 10,000 North Korean troops, including generals, have been deployed to Russia for active duty in support of its invasion of Ukraine. The International Criminal Court has called for the arrest of Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu, placing him on its short list of sitting leaders charged with war crimes, including Russia's Vladimir Putin. Our Shin Ha-young has details.
The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The ICC announced on Thursday that the warrants were issued for crimes against humanity and war crimes committed during the conflict in Gaza, where the Hamas-run health authorities say 44,000 people have been killed. A warrant was also issued for Mohammed Dev, the military commander of Hamas, who Israel says was killed in an airstrike in Gaza in July on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity related to the October 7 attacks on Israel, which resulted in almost 1,200 deaths. This comes 6 months after the ICC chief prosecutor Karim Khan first sought the warrants. Netanyahu slammed the court's decision.
This is moral bankruptcy. It violates the natural right of democracies to defend themselves against murderous terrorism.
The Prime Minister's office also dismissed the warrants as absurd, stating that Israel will not yield to pressure until all its war objectives are achieved. The White House said the U.S. rejected the ICC decision.
We fundamentally reject the court's decision to issue arrest warrants for senior Israel officials. We remain deeply concerned by the prosecutor's rush to seek arrest warrants and the troubling process errors that led to this decision.
In theory, those accused could face arrest if they travel to one of the ICC's 124 member states, which does not include the U.S. According to the BBC, Italy and the Netherlands responded to the ruling, saying they would arrest any of the men on their territory. However, the court does not have its own police force to carry out arrests and relies on its member states for that, with limited diplomatic means to compel them if they refuse. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Today, that is November 22nd, marks Kimchi Day, a day designated to celebrate this Korean comfort food, which in recent years has been expanding its presence onto global dining tables. Our An Sung-jin covers this celebration of culture.
Kimchi, a traditional Korean side dish made from fermented vegetables, mostly Napa cabbage or radish. It's a staple for Koreans and often seen as a representative food of the country. But now, more and more foreigners come to enjoy the unique Korean dish.
This Kimchi Academy in Seoul offers the opportunity to experience making the entire process of kimchi, from preparing the ingredients and mixing it into the final product.
When we travel, we like to do some cooking classes because cooking is just such a cool reflection of culture in a particular area, and it's hard to think of something that's more Korean than kimchi.
And learning how to make handmade kimchi was really a very eye-opening experience. Yeah.
The instructor said she's very proud to see foreigners come enjoy the value of the traditional dish.
Before the pandemic, a lot of visitors from Asia came to make kimchi. But after COVID-19 and with the spread of Korean culture, more visitors from around the world have come and shown interest.
It's a dish on the table almost every day for Koreans, but what's the significance behind consuming it?
For a lot of people these days, it's difficult to consume food with vegetables in it. But one way to obtain minerals and vitamins is through kimchi. Because it is composed of so many ingredients, it contains probiotics, anti-cancer bacteria, and antioxidants.
Kimchi pleases palates and is full of nutrients. But the process of making kimchi is what makes it even more Korean.
Food has become a big part of understanding Korean culture. Kimchi is not just a dish. It is a dish that bonds people together and unites them and solidifies communities. And it's probably the most important dish for the Korean nation.
This vegetable-based dish is the essence in fostering Korean culture, not only for those Koreans living abroad, but also for those who are getting to know about Korea. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
An annual event that seeks to share the works of emerging talents in the creative content market took place on Thursday. The event comes as part of the Creative Talent Support Program launched in the year 2012 to support individuals interested in making inroads into the content industry. The program itself offers mentoring and commercialization support across video making, storytelling and more. The showcase this year, hosted by the Culture Ministry and the Korea Creative Content Agency, was attended by members of the National Assembly who pledged continued support to nurture talent. Korean semiconductor glass substrate maker Absolics is poised to secure, that is, substantial funding from the U.S. government. The U.S. Department of Commerce on Thursday said the SKC subsidiary is among the expected recipients of research investment worth $100 million. The investment comes under the National Advanced Packaging Manufacturing Program, which is part of the Biden administration's CHIPS and Science Act. Absolics is the sole recipient in the glass, materials and substrates area, and this latest selection follows its $75 million grant from the Commerce Department back in May for chip production. Also in the U.S., former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi has been tapped as Tim Trump's new choice to head the Justice Department. Arirang explains.
U.S. President-elect Trump has nominated the former Attorney General of Florida, Pam Bondi, as his U.S. Attorney General pick. Trump announced the decision on social media on Thursday, highlighting Bondi's nearly 20-year career as a prosecutor and Florida's first female Attorney General, calling her smart and tough and an America First fighter. In his post, Trump said, quote, "For too long, the partisan Department of Justice has been weaponized against me and other Republicans. Not anymore. Pam will refocus the Department of Justice to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again." The announcement also came just a few hours after the withdrawal of Trump's previous nominee, former U.S. Representative Matt Gaetz. He has been investigated by the House Ethics Committee over allegations of sexual misconduct and drug use, which he denies. Gaetz withdrew his name from consideration, saying that he had become a distraction for Trump as allegations against him resurfaced. The House Ethics Committee has reportedly investigated Gaetz on and off since 2021 over various allegations, including misuse of campaign funds, accepting bribes, sharing inappropriate images on the House floor, using illegal drugs, and sex with a minor. The Department of Justice had also led an investigation related to the underage sex allegations, but did not file charges against Gaetz. Trump's new pick to lead the Justice Department, 59-year-old Pam Bondi, has worked closely with him on legal and policy matters, including serving as one of his lawyers during his first impeachment trial. Recently, she helped lead the America First Policy Institute, a think tank working with Trump's campaign to shape policy for his next administration. Yoon-hee, Arirang News.
Over in Pakistan, dozens of people were killed and injured in the country's northwest region on Thursday. Men armed with guns reportedly opened fire at passenger vehicles carrying mainly Shiite Muslims on a key highway in the tribal district of Kuram near the border with Afghanistan. Clashes between the majority Sunni Muslims and the minority Shiites have led to many losses of lives in recent months. Tensions have reportedly persisted for decades between the two groups over a land dispute in the tribal area. This year, Korea and Italy celebrate 140 years of diplomatic relations. And to commemorate this milestone, the two countries are promoting a special period of active cultural interactions. That being said, our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin recently sat down with the Italian ambassador to South Korea for her thoughts on the bilateral exchanges.
2024 has been an exceptionally busy year for Emilia Gatto, the Italian ambassador to South Korea. This year marks the 140th anniversary of diplomatic relations between South Korea and Italy, as well as the launch of their Year of Cultural Exchange project.
Everything is inserted in a certain, context of trying to promote relations between Italy and Korea.
A variety of events, ranging from photo and painting exhibitions to traditional dance and opera performances, have been taking place in both Korea and Italy. Having served in Korea for just over a year, Ambassador Kato says she has been consistently amazed by the similarities between the two countries.
They are really very passionate people, people who love culture, but really so much love culture, love art, have a lot of curiosity. So I always say that to me, Koreans are a sort of the Italians of Asia.
This shared passion, she explains, forms the backbone of the relationship between the two countries.
We are countries that consider culture as part of ourselves. So, and culture may have also function to relax, and relax relations, relax moments of the culture to create the better condition for diplomacy, for relations, for knowing each other better.
Among the many cultural exchange programs, the exhibition The Master of Light, Caravaggio and His Descendants stands out. Currently on display at the Seoul Art Center, it brings a significant collection of works from one of Italy's most renowned artists to Korea.
After Leonardo and Michelangelo, more or less, we have Caravaggio in Italy. And this is the first time that we succeed to bring in Korea a very large amount of original paintings of Caravaggio and of the Caravaggeschi.
While these exchanges have already brought Italian art, history, and cuisine closer to Koreans, and Korea's K-pop and K-beauty closer to Italians, Ambassador Kato believes there's still much more to explore.
For us, this is a moment of opportunity to show you this aspect of our culture that is very strong. Basic science research. You can catch this opportunity to let people know about your ancestral culture, your heritage. I don't think there is another country where a language, the writing was fully invented.
Looking ahead, Ambassador Kato sees her role as more than just representing Italy in Korea. She hopes she can serve as a bridge connecting her home country and the country she's always wanted to work.
I wish also to be Korean ambassador to Italy. I want to find the good things of Italy, to promote them in Korea. And I want also to detect the fantastic things that you have, which are many, in Korea, of Korea, that I'm sure Italians would love if they knew it better. Grazie to you. 감사합니다.
송유진, 아리랑 뉴스.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. In Brazil, federal police on Thursday indicted 37 individuals, including former President Jair Bolsonaro and former high-ranking government and military officials, over allegations of an attempted coup to prevent his successor, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, from taking office in 2022. Brazilian authorities say Bolsonaro had full knowledge of plots to assassinate President Lula, Vice President Geraldo Alckmin, and Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes following his election defeat. Police also said they found evidence that Bolsonaro knew of plans by a criminal organization to overthrow democratic order, including election denial in the capital Brasilia in early 2023. While Bolsonaro has denied the allegations, he must now wait for a decision by Brazil's prosecutor general on whether the former president will stand trial or not. The death toll in suspected mass alcohol poisoning in Laos has risen. According to the UK's Foreign Office, a 28-year-old female British tourist on Thursday became the 5th person to die after visiting a small riverside town in central Laos. The death of a 19-year-old Australian female was also confirmed by her family on the same day. Hours earlier, the US State Department also reported the death of an American man in the same tourist town of Van Vieng. Danish authorities also confirmed that 2 Danish national females, aged 19 and 20, had died the week before. Now, as police continue to investigate, reports in the media as well as testimonies suggest the victims may have consumed alcohol laced with methanol. A rare early snowfall across France was seen on Thursday, with the French National Weather Service putting the Greater Paris region of Île-de-France under an orange weather alert until Friday. The weather agency estimated that up to 3 centimeters of snow will fall in the capital through to the weekend. Authorities requested 10% of all flights to be cancelled by Thursday afternoon. Now, French capital Paris's iconic Eiffel Tower will also be closed until 1 p.m. local time on Friday due to safety risks. Kimchi, Arirang News.
Clear skies prevail today ahead of the weekend. However, since today is Seoseol on the lunar calendar, the second seasonal term of winter, there was a slight drop in the readings today. Tomorrow, lows will plummet to 1 degree Celsius in Seoul. It will feel like below 0 with frigid air in the morning. Please bundle up extra warm. It will be the last chance to enjoy late autumn conditions this weekend with sunshine during the daytime. At one point in the afternoon, only the east coast areas of Gyeongsang-bukdo province will receive a little rain. In the middle of next week, the first snow could fall in Seoul, Jeollabuk-do province, and inland areas of Gyeongsang-bukdo province. Tomorrow, Seoul, Gwangju, Daegu, and Gyeongju will start off at 1 degree, Chuncheon -2 degrees. Highs will move up to 13 in Daegu, Gyeongju, and Jeju, Busan 16 degrees. Rain is forecast all over the country on Tuesday next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Thank you for watching.
Contour the world, simply contour. Hello, I'm your Simply Contour MC Taewi of AB6. 반갑습니다.
Turn it
This is my official.
Then
This week, then this week.
simply contour.
Simply contour.
Don't miss out.
Don't miss out.
Don't miss out.
Kimchi Day celebrated here in Korea and in Argentina, as well as a number of American states and a British town. Now, this is according to the World Kimchi Research Institute. With more on the celebrations of this local comfort food on Press Perspective today. Hello and welcome to Press Perspective. I'm Min Sun-hee. It's Friday, November 22nd, which is also Kimchi Day here in South Korea. And for more on the celebration of this day and its cultural significance, I have Andrew Salmon, the Asia editor for the Washington Times, live on the line. Andrew, welcome back.
Sunny, hi. Thanks. Sorry, apologies for not making it to the studio today.
Right, but at least we got you online. It's okay. And I also
have deepest, darkest Gangnam.
Right. I also have writer Colin Marshall with us. Colin, it's good to see you here again.
Good to see you again, and happy World Kimchi Day.
Right. Andrew, so as I mentioned in the clip at the start of this show, beyond Korea, Argentina and a couple of states in the US, as well as a British town, I understand, celebrate Kimchi Day. What do you believe, Andrew, are the broader implications of this reality?
I've got another apology. not only am I not in the studio, but, given that we're watching, North Korean troops now fighting in a war in Europe, somehow the news of World Kimchi Day escaped my radar. So speaking very much off the top of my head, I'd say the ramifications, the implications of this are broadly the same as the ramifications of World Yogurt Day or World Sauerkraut Day, which is to say, possibly not very wide. I mean, the thing is that these are well-known, well-loved foods globally now. I think consumers know what they are, and I don't think people are going to say, oh, it's World Kimchi Day, I better have some kimchi. This is a foodstuff that's been known globally for probably more than a decade. So I would say kimchi's status as a global foodstuff is firm, it's safe, and probably doesn't need a World Kimchi Day to promote it.
Right. And Andrew, before we delve further into what you just said, Colin, do you suppose the celebration of a food like Kimchi Day is similar perhaps to Korea's celebration of Pasta Day and Pizza Day?
Yes, there are so many international food days. Each foodstuff has its day, or we're getting there anyway. Soon every food will have its day. But I mean, it happens so often. I wake up in the morning, I pull up social media, and it's International Pancake Day. It's International Donut Day, or my wife tells me that it is one of those days. And I think, what am I supposed to do about that exactly? I mean, maybe I'll go enjoy the food, maybe not. But in Korea, every day is Kimchi Day. Almost every day is Kimchi Day for me. I mean, I eat it almost every day. And it brings to mind an advertisement I saw in the subway a while ago, which was for a K-Kimchi festival. It was called a K-Kimchi festival, and I thought, that's funny. Like, what would non-K kimchi be? Kimchi is the emblematic food or the emblematic thing of Korea. But then I thought, maybe I want to see what non-Korean kimchi is like. What is German kimchi? What would English kimchi be like? So maybe Kimchi Day, World Kimchi Day, is less something to be celebrated in Korea, where, as I say, it's always Kimchi Day, than something to be celebrated elsewhere, like Argentine kimchi. I kind of want to try it. I mean, you mentioned Argentina, but this is a way for the rest of the world to do their own thing, I suppose, with kimchi. But here, yes, as Andy said, the status is pretty much settled. Kimchi is in its place firmly in the cultural firmament.
Right, Andrew. So as you mentioned, and as Colin just said, global interest in Korea's kimchi, it has been growing and it has a secure place in the world. That being said, how much, Andrew, do you suppose does the world seem to know about this Korean staple, about this Korean banchan?
Probably as much as any, person wants to know. The information is freely available in global democracies. But just to give you a personal example, I was in the UK 2 weeks ago, and Korean food is everywhere. I literally went to a small town not far from Kingston-on-Thames, which is where the Korean ambassador lives. And in this town, not only were there a couple of restaurants serving Korean food, there was literally a Korean supermarket. There wasn't an Italian supermarket or a Japanese supermarket, but there was a Korean supermarket. And as far as I could tell, looking in, everybody in there was sort of white Brits, and even the people serving were white Brits. There wasn't a Korean in sight. So clearly, the many aspects of Korean culture, including the cuisine, ergo kimchi, have been very, very widely accepted, widely disseminated, at least in my country. And I think this is probably true across Asia and across most of the West, North America and Western Europe. So however much you want to know about kimchi, there are books, there are websites available. You can try it in restaurants, you can buy it in supermarkets. For kimchi, it's game on.
Andrew, this is an impromptu question. You talked about trying kimchi in different parts of the world. What was your initial response to kimchi?
When I first came to Korea, and I won't say how long ago that was, I think it was the mid-Shilla dynasty, I tried it. I'd only read about it because in those days, Korean food was not international. Korean culture wasn't widely dispersed. It took me a while to get used to it, to be perfectly honest. And a few years ago, when I was writing about the promotion of Korean food, my suggestion was that probably the best Korean condiment or ingredient to promote would be jang, these fermented pastes, which are probably more accessible to global taste. Kimchi, I think, is something you grow up with. It's an acquired taste, but that's just my experience. Of course, many people, they taste it and it's love at first sight.
Right. Colin, kimchi in recent years, it's been taking on new and bold forms. I mean, it's being blended into Italian pasta or French pastry, and even in cocktails, I understand. Now, some welcome this blending of kimchi into different cuisines, and others do not. What is your take on this?
Kimchi has become a hip ingredient. That's true. And it's not the first Korean ingredient to have that happen. Gochujang as well has been in the culture in the US. I mean, the New York Times, I often reference this, but the New York Times published a recipe for gochujang caramel cookies a while ago. And every Korean I tell about that can't believe it, but it's plausible to me. That's the kind of thing Americans would come up with when they're given this, you know, traditional yet also fresh and exciting to them type of ingredient. But you look at the currently popular kimchi fusion dishes out there, and the work of a Los Angeles Korean-American chef named Roy Choi comes up. And I have fond memories of going to Roy Choi's food trucks when I lived in Los Angeles myself, in Koreatown, as it happens, in the early 2010s. And the trucks were called Kogi, K-O-G-I, and they just went around town, different neighborhoods all the time. You had to find them, follow them on social media, but you go to the trucks and you could get kimchi tacos, kimchi burritos, formerly Mexican or Mexican-American food, but involving Korean ingredients. It could be bulgogi as well. It could be different Korean flavors, but kimchi was the emblematic ingredient. And it brought back good memories to think of just how much I enjoyed seeking out Roy Choi's trucks and trying these fusion tacos, these fusion burritos. I mean, I also enjoy traditional Mexican food trucks, but you know, I also liked Korean food already at that time. So I think it got a lot of people really excited. And some of them used that as their entree, as it were, into real Korean food, real uses of kimchi. But I think it's also, I mean, there's nothing invalid about making a kimchi taco, nothing culturally wrong, to my mind anyway, but not everybody agrees.
Right, and speaking about not everybody agreeing, Andrew, we actually touched upon this dilemma of tailoring local flavors to better suit foreign tastes last week as well. And I'd like your thoughts on this. Where do you stand on the idea of tailoring traditional local flavors to better suit the international taste or the international audience?
Well, I mean, my stand on this is that a man who lives in a democracy where we have rights and freedoms. I mean, if you're a chef, you're welcome to do anything you like with any ingredient. But this question of, do you tailor it to local tastes or do you go for the authentic Korean-style taste is kind of moot, in the sense that Korean food is now so widely dispersed that it's not an either-or choice. I'm sure in most major capitals now, you can go to an authentic, traditional Korean-style restaurant, or you can go to, say, a pub in London where they're going to serve what they call Korean chicken, which is chicken basted in gochujang. So, again, to me, it's a non-issue, and it's not an either-or choice. We can have both.
Right. Meanwhile, moving beyond kimchi, Colin, one local media recently took issue with Korea's esports industry losing the opportunity to set the international standardization of the game, esport itself, to China, despite being the first to actually license professional players back in the year 2000. Many here in the country, of course, believe that esports, Korea is the birthplace of esports. What are your thoughts regarding conflicts over claims to cultural practices and so forth?
I realized when I thought about it, that is something that people associate with Korea, even abroad. In the US, if someone knows something about Korea beyond kimchi, they might know that Korea excels, or Koreans excel at esports, computer games. For decades we've known this, that they're big StarCraft players, for instance, or other games as well, but that the training is rigorous and the attainments are very high, typically in these leagues. Now, the issue here, or what seems to be the controversy, is that China had a set of specifications for international esports rules. They put them in, that was approved. It wasn't Korea's rules, it was rules China made. And in theory, if one country makes the rules, perhaps they will make those rules in a way amenable to their own players. Maybe if you make the rules, you'll do better because you can gear the rules toward yourself. Now, whether or not that will happen, I'm not sure. But the question that comes to mind is, why wasn't Korea first? Why didn't Korea write up some rules and submit them? What happened there? If Korea truly was first, if this is the cradle of esports, why weren't they right on getting the international regulations, if not made in Korea's favor, then at least why weren't they the ones to hammer it down first because they were earliest with the culture of esports? That's an unanswered question to me about this whole controversy.
Right, and staying with the controversies between South Korea and China, Andrew, a while back there was much conflict between Korea and China over kimchi. I'm sure you're aware. Could you give us some background information regarding that particular conflict? And again, how do you respond to such disputes, Andrew?
It's not just about kimchi. You know, some years back there were these vast online flame wars between Chinese netizens and Korean netizens about traditional Korean clothing. Was it from the Ming dynasty or was it Korean? Is kimchi a copy of a Chinese pickled vegetable or is a standalone, you know, all Korean product? My understanding is that while, you know, China continues to press these claims globally, young Korean people have sort of backed off. And I think that's actually a very, very positive development. China, let's be clear on this, is not winning any friends in the global, on the global scene or in the World Wide Web by having all these online sort of wolf warriors and these bots who are constantly promoting Chinese culture and Chinese nationalism and all things Chinese. I think much of the world is extremely irked and irritated by this. So by promoting these very nationalistic sort of hoo-ah narratives, China's actually not making friends, it's losing friends. So if young Koreans are no longer sort of going online and countering these claims, which suggest they've got better things to do with their times, I say more strength to their arms. Again, Korea as a polity, as a democracy, as an economy, is a firm part of the global landscape. Hallyu, you know, the Korean wave of cultural products, is known and consumed worldwide. Korea no longer needs to have these sort of nationalistic campaigns, and I think Korea's a better country for it.
Right. Colin, I understand the U.S. had a similar food dispute with Italy. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I don't know if it rose to the level of dispute, but it certainly was a point of great interest, and it got much circulated. This article in the Financial Times, where an Italian food expert, I believe it was, said or argued that carbonara, the pasta, is actually an American food because it was invented by Americans after World War II in Italy. So you have to think about what makes a food associated with one particular country. If it's invented in Italy, but by Americans, does that make it an American food? I'm not sure about that, because anybody who looks at carbonara is going to say that's an Italian food. It's made in the Italian tradition with ingredients, for the most part, that have been traditionally or had been traditionally used. But the stories of any particular dish are so culturally entangled sometimes, or just not what we expect them to be. I mean, here in Korea, people love tiramisu. It's a popular dessert, but the inventor of tiramisu actually died just this year. And the dish is newer than everybody thinks. It was invented in like 1969, 1970, and so people are surprised, saying, "Oh, I thought this was a like generations and generations old traditional dish." But okay, it's Italian at least, but it's not what I thought it was. And, you know, foods often are. And because there's so much interchange with ingredients like peppers, hot peppers, are from the Americas. Everyone knows that. But Korean food, what's the first thing everybody says about Korean food? It's spicy, because of those peppers that didn't come from here. And I don't think it's any less Korean because it uses peppers after they were cultivated in the Americas and brought here. So people can get very tangled up about all this because food is such a powerful symbol of culture, symbol of nation, symbol of culture. And if, you know, somebody were to argue kimchi is actually Chinese, there'd be a big flame war. If it was the internet, there'd be a big, I mean, people wouldn't be happy. But at some point, foods are, like most foods have connections to some other place than the place they're usually eaten. And that's something that can be interesting. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be devastated by it. I don't think so.
Andrew, I'd like to go back to something you mentioned about Korean youth. Now, with regard to your opinion, there are some critics here in the country who have taken issue with what they believe is a lack of cultural awareness among the young, especially in light of the random claims over Korean culture made by some of its neighbors. What are your observations? Do you think the young here in Korea are unaware?
I don't think they're unaware at all. They grow up in Korean culture. They live in Korean culture. They go through Korean education. But, you know, again, Korea has developed so fast in the last half century. There are significant gaps between the generations. And so, you know, the parents and the grandparents of the young people today, people in their 20s and early 30s, they had vastly different life experiences. And they were, you know, growing up at a time when Korea was not known internationally, was not known globally. And so there was, you know, I find the Koreans of the older generation to be much more sort of fiercely nationalistic and much more promotional of Korea, whereas the young people today, they don't have to be that way because they've grown up in a country and in a world where Korea is widely known, is widely respected. And of course, you don't need these promotional campaigns anymore because the private sector has promoted Korea extremely effectively. And by private sector, I'm talking about be it a sports organization, Taekwondo now is a global sport, an Olympic sport, be it television, cinema, gaming, movies. This has all been done extremely effectively by the various sort of subsectors in the cultural space who've done this for profit, you know, within the global economy, been very, very successful about it, and didn't really need, so again, marketing campaigns or promotional campaigns. So I think, again, I think today's young Korean people are much more comfortable with their identity as Koreans and don't feel the need to push it in the way that perhaps Chinese today do. Chinese arguably is at same kind of development level of Korea 10 or 15 years ago.
Right. Colin, keeping in mind what Andrew's just said, do you suppose Korea's South power in recent years has positioned the country in a favorable leverage, perhaps, for greater interactions with its global partners in diverse fields?
Well, you've mentioned at the beginning of the segment Argentina, and recently an Argentine friend sent me a music video of a new group in Argentina called Caos, which means chaos, and it's a girl group, and it's K-pop, yet it's not in Korean, it's in Spanish, all the songs. All the members are Argentine women, but it's K-pop. Like this, the video, the music, the sound of it, the look, it was K-pop. And I'm thinking, oh, Korea definitely has what I would call a cultural empire going, or the beginnings of a cultural empire. Though, I mean, many Koreans hold it very dear about Korea that it is not an imperialistic country. And so I wonder, going forward, how well Korea will be able to manage or make use of the influence it now has beyond its borders. I mean, is this something that can be harnessed well, or is this something that may be just dispersed through hybridization? Maybe a little of both at once, I'm not sure. But other countries aspire to make things like Korea makes them, and that's a significant development.
Right. Andrew, do you suppose Korea could perhaps use its soft power with regard to the people in the K-pop industry, like our singers, perhaps to raise greater awareness about the more serious issues in the world with regard to wars in Ukraine and the war in the Middle East? Perhaps get BTS fans, etc., to raise awareness about how we should be doing our part to bring attention to such suffering?
To be honest, I mean, there's soft power and hard power, different sides of national power, and they operate in different spheres. I struggle to see what impact, you know, K-pop is going to have on, say, the war in Ukraine, where there's a very significant issue, which is whether South Korea will directly arm Ukraine now that North Korean troops are actually fighting on the battlefield. To me, that's rather a different issue from, you know, people enjoying and consuming Korean movies, Korean dramas. What happens in the West is that many people in entertainment in Hollywood take a strong political stance. We've seen this with the recent election. So that's one area where arguably national soft power can have an impact or not on national policy. But of course, in South Korea, where the celebrities are expected to be squeaky clean and to not cause any controversy, I suspect that is not happening and possibly isn't going to happen in the near future.
Right, Andrew. Well, we will be talking more about North Korea's presence in Ukraine next Monday. So hopefully, Andrew, you can watch us for that episode. Thank you so much for your thoughts on Kimchi Day. And Colin here in the studio, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of this week's editions of Press Perspective. Happy Kimchi Day, and do have a great weekend, and be sure to tune in same time next Monday.